When a bank account hits zero or a doctor calls with a concerning test result, prayer suddenly becomes urgent. We plead for immediate divine intervention, pouring every ounce of energy into fixing our personal crisis. That urgency often evaporates when the crisis belongs to someone else. When a neighbor loses their job or a nation goes to war, we easily nod off, falling into a state of spiritual sleep. We expect God to be wide awake for our emergencies, yet we frequently sleep through his requests to intercede for others. Two specific storms recorded in the Gospel of Mark illustrate the tension between our desperate need for rescue and apathy toward the needs of others. We treat God like a personal emergency hotline, while muting the ringer when he calls us to help a brother or sister in need. In Mark chapter 4, Jesus and his disciples are crossing the Sea of Galilee. It is evening, and they are exhausted after a long day of teaching. Halfway across, a sudden, furious squall hits. Waves crash over the sides, and the wooden boat begins to sink. While the disciples panic, Jesus is found fast asleep in the stern on a cushion, completely unbothered by the gale. Terrified, the disciples wake him with a sharp demand. "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" They insist that he address their impending doom immediately. He rises and speaks directly to the wind and the waves. He commands them to be still, and the storm threatening the disciples instantly vanishes. Because they were in danger, the disciples demanded and received full access to Jesus' power and attention. Mark chapter 14 moves the setting to the Garden of Gethsemane on the eve of the crucifixion. The roles are now reversed. Jesus is the one overwhelmed with sorrow, facing a deadly, fast-approaching storm of humiliation and death. He brings Peter, James, and John, the same men who were with him in the sinking boat, and asks them to stay awake and intercede for him for just 1 hour. When he returns, he finds them fast asleep. They prioritized their own physical comfort over his agony, failing to stand with him in his hour of need. They accepted rescue during their own storm, but abandoned their rescuer when the storm belonged to him. This failure to stay awake wasn't a matter of simple exhaustion. It revealed a deeper spiritual collapse. This timeline suggests spiritual amnesia. A faith spike occurs during divine rescue, but as memory fades, the drive to serve drops. Similarly, the unforgiving servant's massive debt is erased, but forgetting that mercy instantly, he chokes another over pennies. The disciples in the garden were trapped in this same cycle. Having forgotten how Jesus silenced the waves for them, they lacked the motivation to return the favor by staying awake in Mark 14. Spiritual sleep is a symptom of a faded memory. In this framework, remembrance is the foundation of service and obedience. Because human nature defaults so quickly to forgetting, a physical failsafe is required to keep our spiritual memory active. Holy Communion serves as this anchor. The bread and the cup are tangible reminders designed to reconnect us to the reality of the cross. Christ's command to "do this in remembrance of me" functions as an alarm clock intended to snap believers out of their selfish slumber. Recalling the severity of the sacrifice on the cross provides the conviction required to arise for others. You have likely survived your own personal impossibilities and calamities only because God intervened to save you. Now you are being called to stay awake for the massive storms of our time. The devastation in Ukraine is a modern storm, where intercession is a duty, not an option. The tragedies in the Middle East demand the same vigilance. These are the moments when believers are called to be watchmen rather than sleepers. Because he rose for you, you must now arise to serve a broken world. He stayed awake to save you in your storm. Now you must stand watch for the storms of others.